Right guys, welcome back to the channel, welcome back to another video. In this one I'm just going to be showing you how to change the bearings in your Freehub on a giant SLR2 disc rear wheel. So let's go ahead, let's take a look. Right, so here we have the giant wheel, SLR2, it's a carbon fibre wheel. So what we need to do first to get at the actual Freehub body is obviously to remove it. Now if your wheel has been looked after correctly, what you should be able to do is just put your fingers behind the cassette like so, and then placing it on the floor like that, just pull up on the cassette and it should pop off. So before you do that, what you need to do is just undo your lock ring as you would if you was going to remove the cassette from the actual Freehub body first. So we just get that undone. So what you want to do is just undo it just so as you can turn the lock ring by hand. So just tighten it back up, but you should just be able to hold the cassette and undo it like that. Just tighten it up enough so you can undo it, and then pop the cassette off. As you can see there, it just comes off the axle. So you can slide that off. If you can't pop it off like I've just done there, what you need to do is obviously remove your lock ring completely, remove your cassette, and then the end cap there, there'll be more of it sticking out because the cassette won't be on there. So you can get hold of that end cap because that's what's stopping it coming off. And then you can either put some soft jaws in a vise, then clamp it in a vise like that, and then pull up on the wheel rim with both hands and pop the cap off to remove that cap, because that's all that's holding that on. But if you've done it like I've just done it there and popped it off, then you can just pull that off like that, and then just put your wheel down. Then because you've already slackened that lock ring off, then you can go ahead and just undo that like so. And there you see, I'll just get that end cap there. That's all that would be holding it on the axle. There's just no ring up inside there, and it's just got stuck on the end of the axle. If you couldn't get it off like this, so then you can go ahead and just remove that cassette now off of the actual Freehub, like so. So you're just left with the Freehub body. You can see there we've got a bearing in there, and a bearing down inside it. So you can always check if they're bad just by putting it on your finger like that and turning it, and you feel if they're notchy or anything just by doing that, so you know if they need changing or not. So we go ahead, we'll get these out. So when it comes to removing the bearings, what you've got is there's a spacer between the two bearings down inside. So what you've got to do is just offset that collar to one side. As you can see that or not, but it's offset by moving it over. So then what you can do is, we'll get this bearing out first where the lock ring is. So if you place it down like that on a block of wood, and then because you've offset the collar, you can see down inside you'll be hitting on the inner race of the bearing down in there. So if you just hold that in position and give it some few taps like that, the collar will go completely loose inside then. So it's just falling around inside there. So you can just move it over to the other side and just knock it on down. The bearing will start coming out. As you can see inside there, the collar in there. is loose. So we have the spacer inside, and there's the bearing there. So what you can do is we remove the inner bearing down in the bottom, and that bearing in there is held in with a circlip snap ring in the bottom. So with your pliers you need to locate that circlip snap ring in there. Squeeze it together and then remove it like that, and keep hold of it when you let go in case it goes flying off and you can't find it. Just that. Then you can see the bearing inside there, so we go ahead and knock that one out. So to remove that bearing, what you do is just place it down on a block of wood, and then get yourself a 13mm socket, fits down in there like that. So it's now sitting on the inner race of that bearing that's in the end. So just hold that there. Then you knock it on down, and then because this bearing is the same size as the other one, you've got to knock it all the way through. So just keep, it'll come down halfway, and then it have to remove it out of where the other one was. So just keep on tapping it down. Like so. So there's the bearing from in the bottom. So now what you do is clean up inside your Freehub any old grease that's in there. Then we go ahead and refit a couple of new bearings. So when it comes to new bearings, what you want to do is put some grease down in the bottom there where that bearing's going to sit in there, and then just around in the top there on that seat where it's going to go through. So it needs to go through and down inside the Freehub to start with. So when it comes to bearings, I'll put the size of them in the description below, so you can purchase yourself a couple of new bearings for it. So what we'll do with the bearing we're just going to put in, I'll just put some grease around the outside of it like that, and then on the side that's inside down in the bottom, what you're not going to see, just put some grease over there, over the face of it like that. And then we just sit that in place like that to start with, because it's got to be pressed down into the bottom. So if you push on it like that, just get it seated, make sure it's going in square, it's not going in crooked or anything. Right, so what we do now is just set up the press that bearing all the way down into the bottom. So just push that through the first seat at the top, and then it will drop inside the Freehub. So just keep winding it on down, then it go loose slightly, and you keep pressing it down. All the way until it hits the bottom like that, till it stops. Then you can back the tool off, and then we'll go ahead and put the circlip on and the spacer and everything. So next thing we got to do is, you see the bearing in the bottom, so we put the circlip back over. So you just put that in like that and squeeze it up, lower it right into the bottom, and let go, and just make sure that it's actually sat in the groove where it's supposed to go in the bottom. Just go around and check it is pushed into that groove. Then we're ready to go ahead and refit the spacer. So what we'll do is, before we fit the spacer in there, just put a liberal amount of grease in the bottom over that bearing. Just to keep any moisture out of there. Once you've done that, then you get your spacer and just sit that into that grease that you just put down in there, so it sits in line with the bearing in the bottom. And then the bearing for this end, do the same again, just put some grease around it. And then on the side that's inside the Freehub, you're not going to see, just put some grease over the face of that as well. And then sit that in position. And then we can go ahead and press that one in. Make sure you're pushing it in square, it's not going in an angle or anything. And just press that one down until it stops. And then back the tool off. So there's the bearing installed in the end. Just put that on your finger there, make sure it spins okay. Then we go ahead and get this refitted to the wheel. So before you refit the Freehub body, just make sure you grease the axle. There's a spacer on there as well. Just make sure you grease over that spacer as well, like that, before you put the Freehub body on. And then before you slide it on, make sure you've greased the pulls on the back of it and put some grease up inside there as well, between the two bearings. And then we can go ahead and slide that on. Now if you can't get it on straight away like that, then that spacer in the middle between the two bearings just might be slightly out of line. So you might have to just line that spacer back up so as it slides on straight away. And then what you should be able to do is just push in on it and turn anti-clockwise like that, and it might pop in first time. If it doesn't, I'll just show you how to engage that. So if you can't get the Freehub engaged, what you need to do is just get a small screwdriver, and on the pulls there, just push down on them. Like that. So just push down on them one at a time and keep the pressure inwards, and then it'll pop on. So next thing you want to do is just put some grease over the face of that bearing in there. And then with your end cap, make sure you just grease over that end cap and up inside it, so you know it's going to come off easier at a later date. And just pop that on there like so, and pop it in place like that. Then you're ready to go ahead and refit your cassette. Now these are a steel Freehub body on these, so make sure you put some grease over the Freehub body itself before you put the cassette on. Stops your cassette getting seized on there. We can get the cassette back on. Just slide the cassette on and just get your 11 tooth back on again, and then your lock ring on there. We go ahead and torque the lock ring up. So there's everything refitted. So I hope you found the video helpful. If you did, remember to give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel for more cycle related content. Till next one, ride safe and I'll see you then.